What is the secret? What is it that is going to lead to a peaceful world? What is it that is going to allow us to coexist peacefully and in harmony with one another? And that's what I want to explore. I woke up this morning and had a look at the morning news, and one of the things I noticed was this little article here in the Sydney Morning Herald. "We are the ones being terrorised," Muslims say. And it's an article about violence that has occurred in Sydney in the last couple of days. A car spray painted with anti-Muslim slogans, women being accosted in the streets. Another thing that I read on the news last weekend is the death of the Reverend Ian Paisley. The Herald in Scotland wrote this: "After learning that the Reverend Ian Paisley had died aged 88, Martin McGuinness, the Sinn Féin politician and former IRA stalwart, his nemesis for many years and latterly his chuckle brother, partner in power sharing in Northern Ireland, said he had lost a friend. I want to pay tribute to and comment on the work he did in the latter days of his political life, in building agreement and leading unionism into a new accommodation with Republicans and nationalists." So to read this article last week was quite an eye-opener to me. To have Martin McGuinness, a member of the IRA, of Sinn Féin, the enemy in many ways of the Reverend Ian Paisley, to pay him such tribute was encouraging, because here are two men who stood on the opposite sides of a fierce and bloody battle, and they were, over a period of many years, then able to reconcile and work together and clearly share a laugh or two. I think also of the trouble in South Africa that occurred as I grew up. I guess many of us grew up with the notion of the economic and political sanctions against South Africa. The younger people won't remember this. Nelson Mandela, who spent how long? 3 decades?
25 years.
A long, long time in prison. To be able to emerge from prison and to lead his people, and ultimately to become president of South Africa. And do you remember when he did that, when that first election was occurring, and people were predicting a bloodbath? People were saying the blacks are going to get swept into power and the whites won't stand a chance. And Nelson Mandela led that country into a peaceful government. And all this then makes me wonder about what's going on in our world today. We have the threat of the Islamic State, and there's various gesturings and posturings going on the international stage. Australia becoming involved in warfare, America becoming involved in warfare, more and more nations opposing the Islamic State. We have the threat of terrorist action in our country. We've seen arrests in recent days. We see the trouble that is being caused and the hatred that people are feeling towards Muslims just for being Muslim. Now, I've experienced that myself. When I was growing up, when I was in high school, around the age of 12 or 13, I went to school one morning and I was beaten up for being Catholic. And that experience taught me, more than anything else, the irrationality of hate. Here was someone who wanted to pick a fight, and I just happened to be in the way. He decided I was Catholic, and so he beat me up. I remember when the Twin Towers occurred, 2001. And I remember a debate on the television about whether religion causes more good or more bad. Maybe we should just scrap religion and the world's problems would disappear. And the answer is no, of course not. Because it doesn't take religion to cause these differences. It just requires someone to have a chip on their shoulder and decide they need someone else to pick on. Doesn't matter what the chip is. And we can make it up as it was made up for me when I was 12 or 13. So I think in terms of peace and how we work our way towards a sustainable peace, two things for me are important: permission and charity. Allowing another person to live in their own way according to their own good, by their own conscience, coming to their own conclusions. And charity, love for one another, acting in ways that we would like other people to act towards us. These are the two fundamentals to bring about peace. And this is something we can all do. You know, I look at that article I saw this morning in the Sydney Morning Herald about this violence that is going on and people being picked on just for being Muslim. We can do something about that. You know, we don't have to make political statements. We don't have to stand up and write letters to the newspaper or get ourselves on television to do something about that. We can do something about that here and now. We can deal with the people in our lives, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Christian, whether they're atheist, whether they're witches, whatever they are, honestly and kindly. And I hope we can do that.